Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name is Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. I've got about £3.5 million worth of property in the UK, and yet I still rent where I live. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why I think that renting where you actually live is probably one of the smartest things that you can do. And I'm going to draw on some personal experience and some personal examples, and I'm going to see if I can't make the case to everybody out there that when you're looking at a place to live, you should probably rent. That doesn't mean you shouldn't invest in property, absolutely not. But when you're looking at living somewhere with your family or by yourself, I believe that rental is a much better strategy for most people out there. So guys, if you like this sort of video, if you like this sort of content, please give it a big like. It does help me out with the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing until I get to 10,000 subscribers. And we are growing quickly, so you've only got a few weeks. You can book a free one-to-one call with me. Look at the description, there will be a link in there. I have nothing to sell to you. I'm doing 2 or 3 every single day. And honestly, the feedback has just been absolutely amazing. So I hope that you get the opportunity to speak to me. And if you want to, please book that call in. Right, let's talk about why I rent rather than buy. And I'm going to draw on the point in my life at which I kind of learned about this strategy. There was a moment in 2019, sort of 6 years ago, where I went and visited a friend and I was like, this is an amazing place. He was in central London. I said, how much did it cost? And he said, oh, I don't own it, I rent it. Now, I assumed that he would have owned it because he's a big property investor. But no, he was renting that place. And then he explained to me the maths, which just made so much sense. Within 3 months, me and my family had moved into another property and we had become renters. So guys, let me go through that maths with you. And I'm going to use my example for you. We moved from a 4-bedroom on a Taylor Wimpey estate in Oxfordshire worth around about £500,000 to a £2.5 million property towards Henley. Big detached 6-bedroom with a caretaker's cottage, lovely pool, beautiful views. Now that property to buy, the absolute minimum you could have put down would be 10%, but I wouldn't have had the income to allow me to put down 10%. I'd have probably needed to put down 30 or 40% into that property in order to be able to purchase it. So let's run the numbers. 30 to 40% of a property of £2.5 million. What's that? 250 grand per 10%? That's like 750 to £1 million of cash sat in this property. The next thing I have to do is pay a mortgage. So I then have a mortgage of £1.5 million. And at the time, the interest rates were somewhere around 3%. So I would have probably been paying somewhere between £5,000 and £7,000 a month. Fast forward to today, and that'd be close to £14,000 a month. But at the time, that wasn't the figures I was working with. £5,000 to £7,000 a month and £1 million down. I would then have to pay stamp duty. And we all know on big expensive properties, that is a lot. I think the stamp duty calculation came in at somewhere about £180,000 of just tax going direct to the government. So that's lost money. Then we have the refurb costs of these properties. Now, whilst it didn't need a refurb when I moved in, the owner had told me they'd just put a new kitchen in, which cost £60,000. These big, expensive properties cost a lot to renovate and refurbish as you go along. So there's depreciation on all the internals. 6 bathrooms, 6 bedrooms, 6 carpets, 2 living rooms, big kitchens, 3 ovens, 2 fridge freezers, all this stuff, it's going to depreciate. So when you do the maths and you look at the other side of the equation, which was I could rent it for £5,000 a month and put £5,000 down, well, that looks much more attractive, doesn't it? I save £1 million worth of capital. I don't have any of the depreciation issues. I only put a £5,000 deposit down, and then I just pay £5,000 a month. Now, fast forward to 2020, and COVID happened. This is where it will really highlight the importance of renting where you live. My financial situation changed drastically. Overnight, I ran a taxi company. Taxi business, stay at home, don't go out. Guess what? We lost a lot of money. My salary went from a decent salary to basically zero. And we then were in the position where we needed to move out of that. Imagine I had bought it. Do you know how long it takes to sell those sort of properties? Ages. And all that time, I wouldn't have been able to pay the mortgage. Instead, I had about 6 months lead time when my contract ran out. We handed in our notice, and 6 months later, and only £30,000 down, we were able to move out. I could have lost a life-changing amount of money if I had bought that property. So on the downside, if your life takes a tumble and things go badly for you and you have to fall from somewhere there you are, rent gives you the perfect opportunity to be able to do that quickly and effectively with low costs. On the other side, if your life gets better and you start making more money and you can afford to upgrade your life, again, within 12 months, assuming you've just signed that rental contract, you can be into the next property in 12 months' time and upgrading your life without having to sell something, without having any of the hassle. You can move geographies, you can go where your work is. There are so many benefits to renting that people don't talk about. So why is conventional wisdom that you should buy where you live? Well, it's because conventional wisdom also says we should get a stable job, we should work until we retire. Well, I kind of break the mold on all of that. I believe we should work as hard as we can, whether that's in a job or building a business. There is no judgment from me, but we should do the best we possibly can. And with that capital, we should invest. And this is where I would pull it all full circle and say, I still am a property investor. I rent to people who are on different parts of their journey. Some of them will be lifelong renters because they don't have a plan. If they had a plan, I'm a strong believer that anybody can achieve financial success. As long as you've got a plan, a goal, an aim, and you start moving in that direction. I'm a massive believer in social mobility, but I believe that you should rent where you live because it gives you the flexibility to be able to maneuver your lifestyle as you require. Fast forward to 2023, I wanted to move to Dubai. If I'd owned the property that I lived in the UK, I might have to sell it. I might have all these issues. Then I might have to rent it out. And these big properties, they just don't rent out and give good yields. It's much better, in my opinion, to just structure your investment portfolios. These are my investments that make me money. Yes, I invest in property, but that money is then what I can spend on my lifestyle. And I can then adjust my lifestyle depending on the return I'm getting, depending on my income, and I can move depending on how my finances and situation takes me. That is why I believe that everybody should rent where they live. Now, obviously that's never going to be the case. My house is my castle. The British dream is to buy a home and pay it off with a mortgage. But the way I see it, if I had gone back in time, bought that property, paid £1 million down, liquidated all my investments in order to do so, and then just had a bill of £7,000 a month, I would be in a much worse position than having all the assets that I currently have. Granted, it has now grown a little bit, but at the time, let's say £3 million worth of assets with £2 million worth of debt, because I have literally no income. I just have an expense. I've got rid of all of the upside and only kept the downside. Yes, I've got exposure to UK property, absolutely agreed, but we can all agree that there's a big difference between having £3.5 million worth of income producing assets and having £3.5 million worth of liability producing assets. I know which side of the fence I want to be on, and I'm a big believer in most people should try and get on that side. Now, here's the one caveat I will give, and the one reason I think that people should buy where they live. When you're first starting out, when you're buying your first home, it's highly likely that that property is the perfect rental property as well. So why not buy that with maximum leverage instead of paying rent? And these are the times where it does work, okay? If you were able to buy that first property, the 1-bedroom flat, the 2-bedroom terrace, whatever it is that floats your boat, and the mortgage is the same as the rent, and you're putting down a small deposit, then why not get involved in the property dream at that point? I agree completely. There's the caveat, because at the moment that you want to upgrade your lifestyle and go to a 4-bedroom detached or whatever it might be, you can just rent that out. It will give you a good return. The other thing to consider is geographies, right? Like if you were looking to buy in London, I may well not do that. I might buy up north, get a great rental return, and then use that money to fund my rent in London, because rental returns in London are absolutely abysmal. So I would say that there's probably a better way of structuring it in this instance. So I guess this is why I offer my free calls, right? So we can always run through all these scenarios and you guys can decide what's best for you. But I think this sort of contrarian thinking of renting where you live and owning property that pay for the lifestyle is probably key to my success in the future. And it's something that I'm going to stick with for the long term. I don't ever want to own a massive property with massive depreciation where I would essentially be returning a negative gain unless it's my forever home. And so far, I'm certainly not at the end of my journey, so I have no forever home. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a divisive video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one. Like and comment, and I will reply to every single one of you. And if you're looking at any of my videos, I reply to every single comment. So guys, please do that, and I will see you very soon. Cheers, guys.